Morning. How is everybody? Hi there. Je sens bien. Looking forward to a good meeting this morning. Obviously, I'm the most disappointed in the election results, but we ran a campaign that didn't divide Canadians, that offered some opportunity for the future. Je suis le plus déçu par les résultats de cette élection et on doit prendre des leçons. We'll have a good meeting today to talk about that and to talk about where we fell short and what we have to do next time. But already in the first 10 days of the new government, we saw Mr. Trudeau mislead Canadians again while he missed the first day of Truth and Reconciliation. So a reminder that Canadians deserve better and we have to do better.
Why do you want caucus?
I missed this. I missed this so much.
Why do you want caucus
that don't have faith in your leadership anymore?
We're going to have a very good talk. I've spoken with most of our MPs and some of our candidates who ran great campaigns. I'm really proud of how hard people worked. We lost some great people, and I'm responsible for that. And so we're going to talk about what went right, what went wrong, and what we have to do next time.
Why do you want caucus to have the power to remove you? Can you explain why you want that?
Well, I supported the Reform Act when Michael Chong introduced it. I voted in favor of all provisions in 15, in 19, and I will do that today. Our caucus needs a process on how we, as a caucus, pick our chair, how we decide how to deal with the leader in the future, how we deal with caucus members. We had to use that power in the last parliament. So I've always voted in favor, and I encourage all of our members to vote in favor today.
Est-ce que vous avez un échéancier pour déposer votre rapport sur l'examen que vous allez faire? Est-ce que ça va être fait avant Noël? Ça va être quel est le time frame?
On va avoir une revue et aujourd'hui on va parler sur le plan pour notre revue et les personnes en charge pour le Québec et pour le reste du Canada. On a vu des améliorations dans les résultats et les pertes aussi. Et on doit apprendre des leçons.
Mais quand le rapport va être déposé?
Est-ce que vous avez assez d'appui pour rester chef?
Absolument. Nous sommes déçus comme une équipe après une élection. Mais on a des opportunités au maritime, au Québec et à travers le pays, et on doit apprendre les leçons. Mais nous sommes unis comme une partie et on va avoir une réunion avec les opportunités pour le futur.
Would you consider moving up the convention to give members a chance to vote on your leadership sooner rather than making them wait 2 years?
The party has a process for how our conventions are held and how everything is going. We're talking to the party, to the fund, and all aspects of our organization in our review to make sure we learn the lessons, and we're ready. It's a minority parliament. Sadly, very similar to the one we left. We have to be ready to run again.
But you're the leader, you can move it up.
If the leader is not the problem, then what is the problem? Why is the message of the Conservative Party not resonating with Canadians, and what do you need to do moving forward to make sure that happens?
Well, in an election in a pandemic, I know you all know how much the election costs, so I won't get into that. But there were two parties that divided Canadians, that misled Canadians, that had very deceptive and, quite frankly, alarming campaigns, Mr. Trudeau's and Mr. Bernier. We did not. We tried to respect people. We tried to encourage a vaccination level of 90% by working together, not by dividing people. So I think Mr. Trudeau, who's already let Canadians down again in his first 10 days, he has more lessons to learn than we do, but we're going to talk about our lessons today.
Why do you think you have the support of Caucus to stay on as leader?
I've spoken to most of Caucus, and yes, I do. We're all disappointed, no one more so than me, but we have to make sure we build on the gains we have, learn from where we fell short. That's what any team, that's what any family does when you have a disappointment. You learn from it, you come together, and that's what the meeting will do today. Thank you very much. I did. Thank you for reminding me.
Can you step closer?
Mr. Sean, come a bit closer. And can you explain to us why caucus should have the power to remove a leader?
Well, that's our constitutional order. Our constitution was set up so that leaders are accountable to their caucuses in the House of Commons. Unfortunately, in recent decades, that order has been upended, and that's why I introduced the Reform Act back in 2015 that was passed and adopted by Parliament.
Can you walk us through how this would work today if it does in fact?
Yeah, so the Section 49 of the Parliament of Canada Act requires officially recognized caucuses in the House of Commons, being the Conservatives, the Liberals, the New Democrats, the Bloc Québécois, to vote 4 times to either adopt or to reject each of the four model rules governing caucuses that are laid out in that section of the Act. They don't have an option to opt out of the votes. They must take the votes at their very first caucus meeting. That's mandated by law.
And it's only MPs, right? It's only MPs that
That's
have
right.
the power. And is it MPs that also only have the power to vote out a leader, or would all senators and MPs vote on that part? If once it's invoked, once that power is given, would it still only be MPs?
If the model rule concerning the review and removal of the party leader, which is one of the four rules, is adopted by MPs, the rule lays out that only MPs can, by secret ballot, review and remove the leader. In order to trigger that process, at least 20% of the caucus has to ask the chair in writing for a review vote. That similar mechanism exists for the expulsion of a caucus member, as it also does for the review and removal of the caucus chair. So if the other two rules, that being the election of the caucus chair and that being the expulsion of party members, are adopted, the same provisions are in place. Just because caucus adopts these rules doesn't mean they're actually going to use them. A good example of that is in the 2015 Parliament, caucus adopted the rule which took away the power of the Conservative leader to expel an MP from caucus. That became the exclusive purview of elected Conservative members of Parliament. And in the 2015 to 2019 Parliament, we never used the rule once. We never expelled a single member. Obviously, last Parliament, we adopted a similar rule, and we did use it once when we expelled Derek Sloan from caucus.
Could the leader be voting today? Could that vote be today?
Sorry, I can't hear any questions.
The first four votes, they're not secret ballot, correct?
They're right.
Standing ballot.
Well, they are a recorded vote. So the law says that the votes are to be recorded. It doesn't specify which form the recorded vote should take place. It can take place in the form of a roll call, like we have in the House of Commons on a recorded division, or it can take place in the form of a recorded ballot. No, the law mandates it be recorded.
That would cause people to avoid standing up in front of Erin O'Toole?
Not at all. In fact, Erin O'Toole has indicated he will be supporting all four votes today, and so I expect members will vote according to what they see best. But I don't think there's any pressure to vote against any of the four rules as a result.
Could that leader vote happen today?
Moi, j'ai voté pour cette motion dans les dernières deux parlements, en 2015 et aussi en 2019, parce que je pense que nous avons besoin d'un processus formel, écrit, pour régler une crise quand le chef est dans beaucoup de problèmes. Je me souviens un temps dans notre parti en 2000, quand nous avons eu une grande crise avec le leadership de Stockwell Day. Et cette crise a duré pendant, je pense que 12 mois. Si nous avons adopté cette règle, aujourd'hui, nous n'allons pas avoir une crise de 12 mois. C'est une crise de 2 semaines. Parce que le caucus a un outil pour utiliser pour régler cette crise.
Do you personally support Erin O'Toole? Do you personally support him staying on as leader?
Yes, I do. I support Erin staying on as leader. Look, I've been thinking about this, obviously, since the election. I think the top-line results look very similar to the last election, but when you look beneath the hood, so to speak, the results are quite different. From 2011 to 2019, our vote share in Ontario and Quebec dropped each and every election. And I know that. I had 64% in 2011. I dropped to, I think, 51% in 2015, and then I dropped to 47% in 2019. And that happened throughout Ontario. This election, we reversed that trend. In Ontario, we jumped 3 points from 32% in 2019 to 35%. In Quebec, we jumped 4 points from 16% to 20%. Was it enough? Clearly not. But in about 20 ridings, a 1 point shift in the percentage of the popular vote in Ontario would have won us an additional 20 ridings. We won a seat in Newfoundland for the first time in 10 years. We won extra seats in the Maritimes. And so for that reason, I think he should stay on, because I think he's set us on the right track. And we have clearly more work to do, but if we stay on this track with changes, because clearly mistakes were made, I think that sets us up well for the next election. The other thing I'd say is this. Stephen Harper, I was around when Stephen Harper was first elected He was elected in March of 2002. His first election took place in June of 2004, the first election I had in which I was elected. That was 2 years and 3 months for him to prepare. He was then given a second chance till January of 2006, almost 4 years to prepare for his second election. Erin was, but Erin has only been was only a leader for less than 12 months before this election was called. And it was during a pandemic. As I said to people, that's like 6 months in normal time. It wasn't enough to get us ready. He did a Herculean job of doing that, but clearly he needs more time.
So is this party a progressive conservative party? What direction do you think the party needs to go in terms of social issues? Do you think Erin O'Toole was taking the party in the right direction?
We're a Big Ten party. We have social conservatives in our party, and they're a welcome and important part of our movement. But we're also a party that has people who believe in gay marriage, who believe in transgendered rights, and who believe in a range of other social issues. So it's a Big Ten party, and we welcome all sorts of conservatives.
Let's stay on, but with changes. Changes need to be made. Like what?
I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. Erin's initiated a report that we're waiting details on. He announced it the day after the election. And, there'll be also discussion today. I've only talked to about a dozen of my colleagues since the election, so we'll have to wait and see.
Even just one idea of what needs to change?
Yeah. Look, off the top of my head, I don't have any single idea. All I know is we need to win more votes next election. Okay. I have to go. I have to go to caucus. Thank you.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the reflections of the leader and the leadership campaign on the great losses that we experienced in this election. And I certainly hear from my members and from my constituents that they want to know exactly what the path will be charted forward to continue to advocate for conservative principles and values and also run to win.
Is that to say you haven't made up your mind yet?
That's to say I haven't heard a word from the leader or the leadership team or the campaign team on what their reflections are, other than the same words you've all heard in public. So I look forward to also the details on whatever this review of the campaign will be. Be interested in hearing about the terms of reference, the mandate, who's doing it, what the outcomes will be, what the process will be. I would just say that having 15% fewer voters vote for me in this election compared to 2019 and 5% less compared to 2015 is a message that I take very seriously. Do not take it lightly at all. I believe there needs to be an accounting on how it is that we are going to maintain conservative voters, maintain confidence among conservative voters and supporters, and also account for, I think he's fine, account for the serious losses that we took in the GTA, in Metro Vancouver. The reality is that today, after the 2021 election, Conservatives are more rural, more homogeneous than we've ever been before, and we lost great, strong, necessary colleagues in big cities in every part of this country, and there needs to be an accounting for that. And I, as a Conservative Caucus MP, but also more importantly, I guess from my perspective, a person who has given 24 years to our party in its various iterations as a member, a volunteer, and an activist. So that is to say, to have contributed to this party a lot longer of the amount of time that I've served it as an MP. I will be looking for that kind of accountability and clear roadmap forward.
Erin O'Toole sold himself as a true blue conservative.
Mr. O'Toole is the right leader. Is that a fair assessment? You're not convinced that he's the right man?
What I want to hear from the leader is a clear accounting on why we lost seats in the very areas we needed to win, why we lost capable, competent conservatives in urban areas, and I do want to hear a clear roadmap on how we are going to win those areas based on conservative values, because conservatives should campaign as conservatives, and also account to me for how it is that we are going to regain the trust and the confidence of the 15% of voters who voted for me in 2019 and ensure that they feel that we are a voice so that they'll do that again.
Erin O'Toole sold himself as a true blue conservative. Is Erin O'Toole a true blue conservative?
You're talking about.
Okay, you guys want to do one at a
You're
time?
talking about losing 15% of the vote, but you won the seat. Isn't the point of how the Liberals run their campaigns is that they win by such narrow margins? Like, why is it about regaining those votes in?
Because
your
Conservatives
riding?
lost. We lost by every measure, every metric, in every city, across every major group. And I come from a province where Conservative colleagues lost on election night. So I happen to also, 15% of my voters also happen to not support me again in this election. But incumbent Conservative members of Parliament were defeated. And we have fewer members of Parliament in our caucus today. So that is why, as the leader has said, and I take him at his word, I'm assuming there is a comprehensive, rigorous campaign review process underway. I look forward to hearing the details of all of that, who's doing it, how it's going to work, what the terms of reference are, what the mandate is, and what the outcome will be, most importantly, the action and consequences.
What if you don't get a full accounting?
Pardon me?
What if you don't get a full accounting of what you're looking for? What does that mean for you?
Well, my members in Lakeland want to see a full review, and they want to see accountability for the outcome of the election. So I would suggest, if there continue to be questions and debates and issues happening, the best thing of all will be for Conservative Party members to have their say. As you know, it is practice and a rule and the spirit and intent of our party that members do review the leadership after every general election. It happens to be the case, I think, with scheduling and COVID and logistics and various challenges that the current convention is scheduled for 2023. I would suggest a real good start, in addition to letting us know the details of this campaign review, would be to allow to have their members say. Should be feasible within this next 6 months, seems to me.
So in your view, was Erin O'Toole a true blue conservative?
Said how happy they are that they gained votes in St. John's and they gained votes in Ontario, but that came at the expense of 400,000 Conservative voters staying home in Alberta. Do you attribute that more to the leader or to the policy that the leader took?
So I'm a first-generation Albertan. My mother was a Newfoundlander. My father was a Nova Scotian, and not a very uncommon story for Albertans. I don't think Conservative members should accept losing anywhere. So I am certainly glad. I did a lot of work out in those regions over the time that I've been elected, and I'm certainly glad that we have those new colleagues. But yes, exactly to your point, we lost seats in the GTA. We lost seats in the Metro Vancouver area. We lost seats in both of the cities in Alberta. This shouldn't have to be an either or a proposition. There's some conversation going on about the courage to change. That's one of the things I'll be looking forward to hear more from the leader about. He said that on election night. I don't quite know what that means. And so I would say, I'm kind of getting to what I heard you ask. I would say we better hear about that today or real soon, because if now what we're talking about is changes of our policies, our values, our principles, then for me that means it's even more important for the members to be able to have a direct say.
What are the issues you lost on, do you think? What are some of the issues?
I lost three great colleagues in Alberta, at Edmonton and Calgary. Of course I'm not happy.
What are some of the issues that you think that you lost on in some of these places?
I would say it became difficult to decipher what our position was on various issues that seemed to change.
Such as guns, such as abortion? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, sure. There was a flip-flop on the OIC, which involved literally taking the campaign platform down and editing it and putting it back up, even though, as you will all recall, we were told as members a week before if we didn't agree with the platform, we couldn't sit as members of the Conservative Caucus, which is also curious because it's not really a power that's granted. And also, then that would seem curious when the platform has to come down a week later and get edited on another topic. From my riding, I heard lots of concerns about Conservatives running on $100 billion of spending and 10 years baked-in deficits. I don't know about you, but because you are unbiased, but now I'm sorry, I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. I believe that Conservative voters and members do expect more from a Conservative Party than $100 billion in spending and 10 years of baked-in deficits.
Thank you so much.
What are some of the concerns that you're going to raise at the caucus table
Sure.
about the results of the last election and what needs to happen with this party moving forward?
I think it's really important, first of all, that we're having this meeting so soon after the election. We have some successes to remark on and some losses to find out what went wrong. And I think that hearing from the National Caucus, that perspective from across Canada is really going to inform, what steps need to happen next.
And in your opinion, what are some of the changes that you would have made to this last campaign in order for things to be different today?
Well, I think that we're going to need to hear, kind of a holistic view from across Canada of what's going to work to affect that national result that we're looking for. Because, like I said, we saw some regionally, we saw some successes, and other places we fell short. So, getting an idea of what changes to the recipe folks think need to happen before we make any decisions.
Are you comfortable with the leader staying on? Are you comfortable with Erin O'Toole staying on?
Sorry. So we're gonna have the Reform Act votes at the start of the meeting, and I think that it's an incredible opportunity that we have. It's a set of decisions that we take that no other parliamentary caucus takes to give caucus the ability to review the leader. So I'll be voting yes on all of the Reform Act votes, and the leader has said, and he said right after the election, that he's going to initiate a review. I look forward to hearing about the details of the review that he has planned today, and it'll be incumbent on him to demonstrate that the lessons that Caucus expresses today, that they're learned before we move forward.
Do you think you should stay as leader? Do you think you should stay as leader?
That's a decision that in our party the membership takes, and that leadership review is planned for 2023. Caucus is going to vote on the Reform Act provisions. We're going to vote on the.
Not going to wait. You're giving yourself the option to not wait for members.
Yeah. So that's one of the votes that we take, and so I'll vote yes on the 4 Reform Act measures. And
would you sign a letter? Like, would you go to step 2? Like signing a letter to the dean of the caucus saying that you want the leadership. Would you take that next step?
So today we haven't heard as a caucus from the leader, so we're going to hear from members from across the country and see what concerns that they have and see what opportunities are available.
Do you personally have faith in Erin O'Toole as leader of the party?
I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to offer today, especially in terms of a review. This is what our membership is asking for, to find out what didn't go well in this last election. And I think that we should hear what steps the leader is prepared to take before we make any decisions on what comes next.
You haven't decided yet? You want to hear from O'Toole before you decide if you have faith still in him as leader?
This meeting is the first opportunity that we have as a caucus to hear from each other on what worked and what didn't work. And so I look forward to hearing from all of my colleagues. There's 118 of them who are coming back, and we're also going to hear from colleagues who weren't successful. So let's find out what they have to say today, and then we'll look at next steps after that.
With all due respect, you're not answering the question we've asked several times. How you personally feel, rather than just how caucus votes, how do you personally feel about Erin O'Toole as leader?
I'm very happy that we're meeting for the first time as a national caucus within 3 weeks after the election, and we're going to review the results together as a group. We have candidates who weren't successful who are going to be in the room today. I think hearing from them is really important, and so we're going to make our decision following hearing from all of my colleagues. So that's great. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good rest of the day. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Dan Albus.
How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back in Ottawa, starting to think about the important issues we have in front of us. Great to see my caucus, but happy to take any questions you have.
Do you still have faith in Mr. Erin O'Toole?
Absolutely, and everyone I've been speaking to so far has been saying the same thing. Look, the Liberals, the results from this, the trend is not their friend. We've grown our vote share in parts of the country we haven't won in a long time. If you look in Ontario and Quebec, 2 largest provinces, obviously, we've grown. And so everyone is looking forward to growing this party's appeal to the broad electorate, and I myself included.
Will you be voting in favor of giving caucus the power to review his leadership?
So I'm personally, I like that we're a grassroots party, and I believe that the grassroots, when they make a decision, we have to honor that. But look, I'm known as an open-minded person, so I'll be hearing what other things my caucus colleagues have to say. But right now, I'm pretty much on that side of the fence.
What's your understanding of the COVID protocol within there?
Oh, well, we're supposed to follow all public health orders, so we'll be wearing masks, we'll be spaced out, and so I expect that there'll be, before the meeting begins, there'll be some reminding, because champions need reminders of what all the protocols are. Being from British Columbia, just making sure that my own passport works here, those kinds of things. So I'm hoping that some of those things will come up.
So
what's the
you're
direction?
fully vaccinated then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fully vaccinated, so is my leader. It's the most important thing that we all can do to get out of this.
The MPs should be vaccinated in order to get into Parliament?
Well, that's a detail I think that needs to be talked about, but that's way above my pay grade.
What safety precautions were you told about to come to this caucus meeting? Somebody said they weren't asked if they were tested or if they were vaccinated. So have you been given any safety precautions to come sit with 120 people?
Well, every time we meet as a caucus, we always follow all public health guidelines. And as I said earlier, when we start the meeting, I expect there'll be some reminders to exactly what, because obviously Ontario has changed some of its rules, and so we want to make sure. I'm from British Columbia, I'm fully vaccinated. We have our own passport system, and so getting to know how each province works, so that's going to be important. And also, obviously, Parliament Hill's not subject to provincial regulations, but they do have their own guidelines that are based on public health, and so we'll be following all those.
So what's your understanding of the rules for your colleagues who aren't vaccinated to come to this meeting today?
Well, that's a great question. That's something I think the whip would probably be better able to handle.
They haven't been provided any instructions as if you're not vaccinated, you have to.
Well, I'm double vaccinated, so it doesn't apply to me. So maybe I didn't get the memo on that.
How does your passport look like?
Are you voting for Caucus to have the power to remove a leader today?
So I believe as a grassroots party that it's up to the party members to make a decision, and then they also have within our constitution a right for them through various means to bring that leadership review. So I'm on that side of the fence. That being said, I'm an open-minded MP, and I want to hear other people, because that's what caucus is about. It's about listening to other voices.
But Mr. O'Toole himself is asking caucus to have that power, right?
Yeah, Mr. O'Toole's been very much in favor of Michael Chong's Reform Act, and but he has always respected caucus decisions, and really this is a caucus decision, not one by the leader.
Last question for you. Do you believe that Parliament should be still hybrid, or now that the vaccines are available to everybody in the state, should it only be in person?
So all I've seen is both the Bloc and the NDP are offering contrasting visions for it. I haven't put a great deal of thought of it. We don't even have a date for when Parliament returns, and so that's one thing that I'm focused on right now is first of all this meeting, and then second of all when we will return to Parliament. I'm sure all those questions will be answered in due course.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks.
Also, wine in BC now.
Wine in
the forest fire.
Well, you know what? I've asked a few people that, and some people say it's not going to affect it. One gentleman a few years ago did something called a fumée franc, and no. So Don Martin had us on a show, Power Play at the time, and I brought fumée franc, and that's the only time, and I'm sure Don won't mind me sharing. It's the only time he said, "Can you hook me up with the gentleman that did that?" But of course, being the interprovincial trade barriers, I said, "Don, I'm sorry." So anyway, so we'll keep working on that.
Thank you. I'm going to look that up.
Thanks, everyone.
This is a serious campaign.
C'est pas là. Ah oui, monsieur Luc, allons-y.
Est-ce que vous avez encore confiance en M. O'Toole comme chef du Parti conservateur?
On a eu d'excellents résultats au Québec. On a eu 78 000 votes de plus que la sélection précédente dans tout le Québec. Donc oui, effectivement, j'ai confiance. Puis je pense que M. O'Toole mérite de rester le chef du Parti conservateur.
Je ne
peux pas vous dire mon contenu de vote, par exemple. C'est privé.
Morning, guys.
How are you, sir?
How are you guys?
Good.
He's a friend and he's a colleague.
So what does that mean, though?
He's a friend, he's a colleague.
But is he your leader?
Why should he stay on as leader?
You know what, guys? It's great to be back here in Ottawa, and I'm looking forward to getting back with my friends and my colleagues, and we'll have a great discussion as we move forward.
Do you want a leadership review?
Listen, you know what? It's there's a lot of conversations that need to take place in the next little while. We, as a team and as a membership, will have those discussions. And today, I just want to say how great it is to be back here in Ottawa. and it's time to get back to work.
Do you want the power? Do you want the power to vote out your
You know what?
vote?
That's all I'm going to say right now. I just want to say thanks, guys. Have a great day. It's great to see you guys. And you know what? It's time that we're back in there and get back to work. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.
What lessons do you think the Conservative Party needs to take away from the result of the last election?
Well, that'll be the discussion today. You know, I know in everybody's riding there may have been different issues that, were problematic, and so that'll be the discussion today. I'm interested to hear what the other members will say.
In your opinion, was it also a matter of leadership?
Oh, I don't think so. I think our party platform came out, early in the campaign. I think it was well accepted, and there was a lot of great ideas in there. And I do think that, there was a few problematic points in the campaign, as there always is, so that'll be the reflection. Well, in my riding, it was really the mandatory vaccine position and climate change, flip-flop on carbon tax, and I think also the firearms issue.
Do you think that Erin O'Toole should stay on as leader?
I do.
Why?
Erin showed himself a really impressive leader. He did well in the debates. The platform was great. He did lead the team well. No one is perfect, and so that'll be the reflection today.
Caucus should have the power to launch a leadership review. They didn't last time. Do you think they should this time, even though you support Erin O'Toole?
You know what? I do think that the caucus should have the power to do that. Our constituents have sent us here, to be their voice, and I think that we need to do that. Oh, yes. Unavoidably, when you get politicians in a room with unlimited time to talk, it will always be long.
You want to
you know what? I'm interested to hear what the other members are going to say. I'm sure there'll be the full diversity of views, those that support, those that are disappointed in the losses. So we'll wait and see. Have a great day.
Do you support Erin O'Toole?
Oh, 100%, absolutely.
Do you think there should be the power for Caucus to have a leadership review, though?
Well, I mean, it's really up to the caucus, but I'm 100% behind Erin, and at the end of the day, I think the story will be gone by 12 o'clock.
What are some of the issues that you're going to...
Comment vous avez vécu votre campagne?
Très belle campagne.
Oui.
Très belle campagne dans un merveilleux comté, une 7e élection, alors très contente du résultat, évidemment.
Puis le chef, est-ce que vous l'aimez? Est-ce que vous l'admirez encore?
Il a toute ma confiance.
Il a toute votre confiance, pourquoi?
Parce que c'est un homme qui est ta femme, c'est un homme qui est proche du Québec, c'est un homme qui est proche des préoccupations du Québec. Alors aujourd'hui, c'est mon premier caucus. Je suis très enthousiaste et très heureuse de rencontrer mes nouveaux collègues. Bonne journée!
Merci, bon caucus!
You don't support Mr. O'Toole as
Yes,
the leader.
absolutely.
And so what do you think about some of the caucus members that feel there needs to be a review of the leadership here?
Well, Mr. O'Toole has committed to a full review of the election. I think that most of my colleagues will be participating in that. But I also know there's a big desire for us to get back to work. Many of us through the election heard about the need to address many issues that are facing the country, including inflationary pressures, and we're all looking forward to getting back to work.
Do you think anything that has to do with the result of the election has to do with the leader?
I fully support Mr. O'Toole. I know that there's many people who are very excited about us getting back to work in Parliament, and that's what I'm going to be expressing in caucus today.
Are you planning on voting in favor of the Reform Act provisions?
So I've been part of this party for a long time. Prior to entering politics as an elected official, I was a grassroots activist. I've always believed, even when I spoke on the Reform Act when it was before Parliament, that party members should dictate party governance, not caucus. I see myself as a member of the party. So I've always been in favor of giving more power to the party grassroots as opposed to consolidating party power within caucus. That's always been my position on the Reform Act, even when I spoke on it in Parliament, and that's how I'll be comporting myself today.
What does Mr. O'Toole have to say today to those members who are upset with the election results? What does he need to come out? What tone does he need to take?
Well, I was glad that Mr. O'Toole, right off the bat, like the day after the election, committed to a review of the election, and I expect that's what people will be doing today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bonjour, ça va vous? Une question, 2 minutes?
Oui.
Oui, bon. Écoutez,
Est-ce que vous croyez d'abord que le caucus doit se doter du pouvoir de conduire un leadership review ou non?
Bon, alors, comme vous le savez, notre système existe, notre système est là. Ça va être la décision des députés à savoir si oui ou non on va de l'avant avec cette question-là. Pour moi, l'option est très claire. Erin O'Toole est l'homme de la situation, va demeurer chef et va nous conduire à la victoire dès la prochaine élection.
Pour vous, qu'est-ce qui n'a pas marché dans la présente élection?
Il y a plein de choses qui ont bien marché. On a augmenté au Québec de façon significative. On a augmenté dans l'Atlantique, on a augmenté en Ontario. On a des défis à relever, puis justement, on va en parler au caucus, qui est tout à fait normal. Mais moi, je peux vous dire une chose, d'avoir augmenté substantiellement au Québec 80 000 votes de plus, alors que les libéraux, le Bloc, le NPD ont culbuté au Québec. Nous, on a augmenté, on est très fiers de ça. On aurait souhaité, bien entendu, avoir plus de gens, bien sûr, mais de façon globale, si on regarde ce qui s'est passé au Québec, dans l'Atlantique, en Ontario, on a augmenté et on est bien heureux.
En plus, quels sont les membres ou les députés qui doivent décider justement du leadership?
Bien, comme vous le savez, le système existe pour, comme je vous ai dit tantôt, pour le caucus, mais comme vous le savez aussi, dans notre parti, c'est les membres en l'ensemble qui votent pour le chef. M. O'Toole a été dûment élu par l'ensemble des membres du Parti conservateur et on entend qu'il soit toujours là comme chef pour la prochaine élection. Il a fait un travail très important au cours de la dernière année, malgré la pandémie. Nous avons un programme qui est balancé de façon plus optimiste pour l'avenir du Canada et on est très fiers de ça, puis on va continuer à travailler ensemble.
Selon vous, le retour du Parlement en personne, la capacité maximale, est-ce que c'est quelque chose que...
Bien, il faut revoir d'abord les mesures qui concernent l'Ontario. On est en Ontario, il faut absolument agir selon les mesures de l'Ontario. Et puis, on aura des discussions à avoir avec les collègues par rapport à ça. Mais moi, ce que je constate, c'est que oui, il y a de plus en plus d'assemblées qui ont cours où on peut justement se rassembler en grand nombre. Maintenant, c'est pas des discussions qu'on peut avoir publiquement, c'est des discussions qu'on doit d'abord baser sur ce que la santé publique nous recommande, d'abord et avant tout, et après ça, voir avec les autres partis.
Avec vaccination obligatoire?
Bien, écoutez, moi, j'ai toujours été un ardent défenseur de la vaccination. Nous avons posé des dizaines, j'ai personnellement posé, notre parti, nous avons posé des centaines de questions sur l'accès aux vaccins. Pour nous, c'est important que les Canadiens aient accès aux vaccins. Souvenons-nous du trou noir qu'on a eu en janvier et février, qui a accentué la troisième vague de façon malheureuse pour les Canadiens. Nous, on est conscients qu'il faut se vacciner. Moi, je me suis fait vacciner 2 fois. Je l'ai mis sur mon Facebook, sur les réseaux sociaux. Je suis très fier de notre situation et on souhaite que tous les Canadiens puissent se faire vacciner. Bien, c'est ça que je vous dis. Quand on dit que tous les Canadiens, ça commence pas mal avec ces gens-là. Mais bien entendu, on est conscient que ça pose certains défis de santé pour des individus, si on reconnaît ça. Mais oui, c'est sûr que plus on est vacciné, mieux c'est.
Figure out what worked, what didn't. I expect that there's going to be a robust discussion this morning in Caucus about that, and I'm looking forward to participating in that.
Do you still support Mr. O'Toole?
I absolutely do. I think it's critical. I spoke to Erin about a week ago, and I think it's critical that he stays on and works towards the next election, and I'm looking forward to supporting him in doing that.
Do you think Caucus should have the power to review his leadership?
I don't. I think that's up to the membership to review. There's tens of thousands of members across this country who are part of the Conservative Party. They should have the say, and I expect this morning, I hope this morning, that we will give them that say in 2023 when the next review is scheduled.
So you won't be voting in favor of it?
I won't be voting in favor of a review for the leadership this morning, no.
Can we ask you a few questions?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to go to the pool. Okay, good.
Well, I know my personal status is that I'm fully vaccinated, Stephanie, so I've made that clear to the leadership. I don't know what the protocol is this morning. I was asked the question and I provided the answer that I'm fully vaccinated.
Do you feel comfortable being in a room with people who may not be fully vaccinated?
Well, it depends on whether they've had rapid tests. We'll have to wait and see. I expect that there is going to be the proper health protocols in place of spatial distancing, making sure that we wear our masks when we're in there. So I'm comfortable with that. But from my standpoint, I know I'm vaccinated, so I feel comfortable walking into that room.
Mr. Broussard, when it comes to Ontario in particular, we heard from Mr. O'Toole throughout the campaign. He wanted to be the Prime Minister from that area. What do you think of the results after such a push, in particular in the last 3 days?
Well, obviously I'm disappointed in the national results. Personally, I'm happy with where I am. I won. I won with a healthier margin than I did in the previous elections, and I think we saw that in some of the seats. We definitely made some gains in some areas. It's well known that we've made some losses, but I think there's a lot to build on. The policy platform that we put forward, I think, really addressed a lot of the issues that were important to Canadians. Issues like affordability, issues like mental health, making sure that we balance the budget in a time frame, not right away, but within 10 years. And so I was really comfortable as I stood on the doors and as I spoke to constituents about our policy platform. And I think there's a lot to build on, because the policy that we put forward and the platform that we put forward really resonated with a lot of Canadians. And I think we need to build on that.
What do you think tripped the Conservatives up then?
There were a couple of things. I think I'd rather leave that to the discussion this morning within caucus. I don't want to litigate publicly what I think. I spoke to Erin. I told him what I felt needed to be corrected. I also told Erin that, despite the fact that we failed in forming government, failure is never failure unless the lesson from that failure is lost. And so we're going to have a robust discussion. There's going to be varying opinions this morning on what worked, what didn't, and I expect that we're going to learn from that. And as we move forward over the next couple of years, whenever the next election might be, that we're going to present a plan to Canadians that's going to resonate with them. This plan did. It didn't go far enough, though.
Do you think Parliament should be hybrid or should it all be back in person?
Well, listen, we can put 30,000 people in the Rogers Centre. I think that we need to be back in Parliament. I think the dynamics of Parliament, the fact that working at the committee level, working within the House of Commons, making sure that we're all working together. And listen, the message that Canadians sent to us is a clear one. We need to work together. The challenges that we're facing as a country, the magnitude of those challenges require all of us to be working together, and we need to do it here in Ottawa. Not necessarily on a hybrid basis. There's still that option for some people if they don't feel comfortable, but I think the dynamics of Parliament should be in play, and we should be in the House of Commons, and we should be doing committee work as well.
Thank you.
Do you think Mr. O'Toole should stay on?
I'm going to be voicing my opinion in there, but I think Erin did a good job in the campaign, and hopefully this is where we voice our positivity, our negativity. We come out as a team, cohesive, and go forward to the next campaign.
What do you think tripped you guys up in this campaign? Because in the first 3 weeks, it seemed pretty...
I don't think a lot did trip us up. I think the people have spoken. We won the majority of the votes. I think Canada's pleased with which way we're going. I think it was Erin's first time out, and hopefully he gets a second time. We'll see where we go in the next time.
When I could tell them that you were vaccinated to come today, or how did that work?
I did not have to, but I am fully vaccinated.
What do you think of
Mine's on social media. It's been on there for a long time. I have no problems showing that.
What they were communicating,
Yeah.
you guys all had to be tested.
I wasn't asked. I don't know if anybody else was.
You weren't asked any. You weren't given any parameters for
For
what?
this meeting?
Yeah.
I personally wasn't, but I've also expressed that I am. So I am double vaccinated
Okay.
and have been for a long time.
Do you think that MPs should have to be vaccinated to sit in the House of Commons?
I think that's up to personal MPs. I wouldn't speak for anybody else. I feel safe having it. My kids have it. My wife have it. So I'm confident and comfortable with it.
How's it feel going back in today?
Good.
What do you feel of the results from the election campaign?
I think they're good overall.
Yeah.
Good overall. Being an Ontario member of Parliament, I think virtually every member of Parliament in Ontario had an improvement in their top line number and in their margin of victory. So I think that's a good result.
What do you say to the people who are grumbly about Mr. O'Toole's leadership?
Which people?
Well, there's a few. Unfortunately, they don't want to be named.
Well, I think the real grumbling should be the Prime Minister. That's what I would say.
And what about in your caucus?
Oh, I think it's good. I think it's good. I mean, you're never going to have 100% ever anyways, whether it's in your place of business and work or whether it's in our caucus, but I'd say it's almost unanimous, I would say.
You do think
I do
so,
think so,
that
yeah.
they'll support him?
Oh, yeah. Erin's done a great job of connecting with all the members of Parliament. It's a tough job. You've got to plan for an election, right? Like when you first won the leadership, you're planning for the election. And then in that time, you're also trying to establish relationships with a number of new members of Parliament and everything else. So I think he's done a great job with that. He's spent a lot of time calling members of Parliament, so that's great.
Yeah,
Great.